And you're included in this in this tornado warning that runs until 12:30. Some of the cities included, of course, include Stillwell, Morrow, and Fayetteville. This is going to be tracking off towards the east-northeast. There is one supercell that is going to be capable of producing tornadoes that we're tracking, and it's this one. Here's Prairie Grove, not included in the tornado warning itself, but just off towards the south and west. Overall, that red polygon, which is the actual tornado warning itself, is relatively small in nature, but it is there, and it is certainly meaning business. You can see that hook echo right there crossing Highway 59 in Stillwell. If there is a tornado developing, this is where it is likely going to be, right in this general vicinity. You probably have frequent lightning, some thunder. You're seeing the uptick in lightning and thunder there. Over the last couple, let's say, of scans, the last 15 minutes or so, we've noticed a gradual uptick in that actual rotation. I want to show you what we're looking at in terms of rotation, and you can see a pretty clear signal right here. What we're looking at are yellows and reds. That's going to be winds blowing away from the Doppler radar site. We're using the Fort Smith radar site. Meanwhile, you've got some pretty tightly wound up greens. That's winds blowing towards the radar site. Anytime you have that mashup, well, that's a pretty clear indicator that we've got Doppler radar indicated rotation. Latest scan just now coming in shows that area of rotation now just to the east of Stillwell, and that's going to be tracking almost due east, maybe slightly north of due east. So I call it east-northeast generally speaking. I want to put an estimated time of arrival on this. Getting some reports, I don't want to, that's not confirmed yet, so we're going to keep that in the back of our mind. I'm looking at some information coming out of the Tulsa television stations, which also cover parts of this area as well. Your area of rotation likely going to be along Highway 51 right here. This is probably where we've got a developing tornado if there's not a tornado on the ground right now. I want to take a look at correlation coefficient, which is just our debris tracker, and I do see some signal that there could be something in this general vicinity. I know this radar product we're looking at can be a little bit messy, but we might be seeing a bit of a signal there of some debris being lofted into the atmosphere. Certainly the rotation is tight. It has been tight over the last couple of radar scans. Weather Service indicating there's also now potentially 3/4 size inch hail falling out of this storm, which tells us the updraft is probably increasing over the last couple of scans. It's moving quickly. In fact, Stephen, do you have a track on how quickly this storm's moving? Looks like east at 45 miles per hour. So with that information, what I'm going to do is give us some estimated times of arrival. This is just based off of how quick it's moving right now. So these are some estimates for us. Let's call it Dutch Mills at 12:12, Morrow at 12:16, Cane Hill 12:20, Strickler 12:25, Hawkeye at 12:29. The warning itself for this potential tornado is going to run until 12:30 this morning. I know it's late in the evening, so if you're just now waking up, if you're just now tuning in, trying to figure out what in the world's going on, we have a Doppler radar indicated area of rotation that has prompted a tornado warning for parts of Adair and parts of Washington counties. And it looks like this potential for a supercell thunderstorm to continue moving into Washington County is certainly on the increase. There's nothing out ahead of the storm that could potentially block it or undercut the potential for some rotation right here. Rotation itself is now just to the east of Stillwell. You can see a supercell thunderstorm. Here's your hook echo. Decent amount of updraft there with potential for a little bit of hail mixing in with this cell. I want to take it while we're waiting on for the next scan. I want to take a tighter look. And what we can do is gives you some streets that may be impacted by this storm. Of course, we're on the outside of Stillwell there. Not a lot to really pinpoint. I'd say the rotation itself probably there at the intersection of 51 and 59. We're now in the hook echo right here. We're looking really close into the storm. It's probably running due parallel with Oklahoma Highway 51. Okay, new scan. Let's zoom out. This storm's moving pretty quick. Weather Service has it progged at 45 miles per hour, but perhaps it might be moving just a little bit quicker than that. Even at 45, that's a pretty quick moving severe thunderstorm, especially if it's got a tornado there. Likely going to be crossing the state line here in the next couple of minutes at that rate. Here's going to be your area of rotation, maybe moving slightly to the east-northeast at this point. Here's 51. Here's the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, this darker bolder white line here. Evansville, you're in the tornado warning. Your cell phones are alerting you. Your NOAA weather radios are going off. But I'll tell you, the main concern is going to be just off to your north. Not too big of an issue for us there in Evansville. But if you're in Morrow, you are under this tornado warning. Cane Hill, also in the tornado warning. And folks in Lincoln, sometimes these warnings can be close enough to us in Lincoln that your phones can go off, your NOAA weather radios can go off. A little too close for comfort right now. If you're in Lincoln, what I'd like you to go ahead and do is maybe start taking some of those early precautions, maybe getting out of bed, getting the tennis shoes on, and just kind of getting to be a little bit more alert to the situation. It looks at this point to likely pass just to the south of Lincoln, but that's not to say we might not see this thing take a more of an east-northeasterly track than it currently is right now. Current time, 12:07. Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert here alongside Stephen Elmore, tracking an unfolding severe weather event that's likely to continue overnight tonight. This is the first warning we've had. We do have a tornado watch in effect for Benton, Washington, Crawford, Sequoia, Adair, and Delaware County. This is our first warning. It is a tornado warning. It includes Adair as well as parts of Washington County. Low-level storm structure has become less organized. That according to the National Weather Service out of Tulsa. And that is some general good news. Good news as it may be, we have this warning that's going to run until about 12:30, unless they cancel it early, which is certainly something in their purview that they can do. But I'll tell you, often these supercells are never, they never just ramp up and become a supercell and stay that way. They often live very cyclically. They'll pulse up, they'll pulse down, they'll pulse up, and they'll pulse down, and they continue that over and over and over again. So while right now we are seeing some signal that maybe it isn't as organized as it was when they issued the warning right at midnight, so we're looking now about 8 minutes ago. That's not to say it might not tighten back up. We've been watching this cell for probably the last couple of hours when it was in southeast Oklahoma, and it is slowly but surely grown into this supercell thunderstorm. Warning here is pulsing. That means the Weather Service out of Tulsa has updated some information, so let's take a closer look at exactly what that is. This tornado warning right now running until 12:30 this morning. Dutch Mills, Fairfield, Morrow, and Peavine included in this warning. 3/4-inch hail also possible with this supercell thunderstorm. Right now, rotation is likely just 3 miles east of Adair State Park. It is moving, continuing to move northeast at 45 miles per hour. Some of the locations, of course, was Stillwell, but we've trimmed Stillwell out of this warning. You can see that we can give you the all clear in Stillwell. In fact, boy, we just got another scan in, and this storm is racing off towards the north and east. 45 miles an hour is a pretty quick movement for a supercell like this. Typically, they're going to be moving a little bit slower. At least that's often the case around here. I want to take a tighter look in here, give you some idea of exactly who might be located in the path of this storm. Here's Dutch Mills right here. This is Arkansas Highway 59. We're now running a little bit north of Oklahoma 51, probably about 2 to 3 miles. That's where we would see the area of rotation likely with this specific storm. I can hear the wind here outside of our television studios, and it's breezy out there. These winds have been out of the south 30 to 40 miles per hour all day long, and what that has done is it's pumped in a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. That in of itself is an ingredient when it comes to developing these tornadoes. And those winds also producing quite a bit of wind shear as well. So we're getting an update there. Waiting for Weather Service to provide an update. Tornado warning continues for the next 20 minutes here. We're going to be covering this online as well as on air until the threat has passed. I'll tell you there's a tornado watch that's going to be in effect for a larger majority of the viewing area until 3 a.m. I'll show you that watch, and you'll see that it does include a good majority of eastern Oklahoma, a large chunk of northwest Arkansas, and portions of the Arkansas River Valley. Your tornado watch here until 3 a.m. in yellow. We have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for our southwestern Missouri counties until around that same time. Right now, though, there's only one warning, and that's going to be this specific severe thunderstorm warning that includes still parts of Adair and Washington County. It is a small warning. We're still looking at individual discrete cells out ahead of the actual main line. Here's the main line that's likely to be moving into the area over the next few hours. That's the one that is predominantly going to produce some damaging winds. We're talking 60-mile-per-hour straight line winds, maybe some pockets of hail in there as well. And even in these lines, lines, you can get some spin ups and you can have a tornado potential. But certainly when you have these discrete supercells out ahead of the main line, those are the ones that cause us the most heartburn. Those are the ones that get us paying really close attention. And the reason why is they're out here ahead of the main system all alone, which means they're not competing for inflow against other supercells. Now, it's possible with some of this additional scatter development that's not severe that may have some influence on how this supercell behaves. But right now, it's generally speaking there by itself, not competing with other cells for that inflow, for those winds, the wind shear, the moisture. And so, you know, it's going to be possible that this is going to continue a little bit later. Right now, the warning runs until 12:30. I'll tell you though, just looking at the structure itself, is certainly not near as impressive as it once was. With that said, certainly could be seeing some damaging winds come out of this storm. The tornado warning does not include Prairie Grove. The tornado warning does not include Fayetteville, Springdale, or anywhere else in Washington County. It's this one sliver here that does include Morrow, does include parts of Adair County. This is where we would have our concern, but that's not to say we're not getting heavy rains, probably even some pockets of some smaller hail just to the west of Prairie Grove. All of this activity tracking off towards the east-northeast. So folks in Fayetteville, rain is going to pick up here real soon. You're probably already hearing the winds out there, maybe even some lightning and some thunder, although I'm not seeing as much lightning as we were even just a few minutes ago. A strong thunderstorm nonetheless. The tornado potential likely remains just to the south of us here, but we'll have to see if maybe that doesn't skirt up towards the Greenland area over the next, let's say, half hour or so. Right now, I'm not seeing any indication that that tornado threat's going to continue. In fact, I think right now the trend is generally pretty good. We'll have to see if they maintain this warning a little bit longer. We haven't looked at rotation, so let's do that. It does appear that there's some weak rotation in the general vicinity just to the south of Lincoln. So I'm going to say that's near Kirk Lane Road, where Kirk Lane intersects with Highway 49. But that signal isn't exactly the strongest. This is going to be just to the north of Dutch Mills. So, wow, that is maybe one of the smallest tornado warnings I've ever seen. So what the Weather Service has done is they've said our threat is likely right here. We're going to cancel the warning for anyone that doesn't live in this red polygon. It's blinking there. That's our tornado warning, which is really, really small. When they edit those or when they make changes, that's called warning maintenance. And that is essentially telling you, hey, if your NOAA weather radio went off over the last 20 or so minutes, if your cell phone's alerting you and waking you up to this potential threat, you can go back to bed unless you live in this one tiny box. Cane Hill is included in this tornado warning. Morrow, really just to the north of town. Dutch Mills, that's where our hazard is right now. That's where the potential of a tornado is. There is some rotation. It's a lot weaker than it was, though. When this thing was first issued, we had some pretty tight rotation, a pretty strong signal there with the potential of maybe a sighting near Stillwell. That's from a pretty well-respected storm chaser that passed that report along out of the Tulsa television market. He was tracking that storm over. It's really tough to see tornadoes this late at night. It's dark, right? So you're relying on lightning strikes, and even then you're only getting a flash, right? So you got to look really closely, and sometimes things can be deceiving. There can be some low-lying clouds that aren't actually making contact with the ground. All that to be said, we'll wait till the daylight to see if we don't see actual damage out there or if we get any reports in there this evening. We've not seen any reports yet. That's not to say we might not get some, but right now, Dutch Mills, Highway 59, Arkansas, this is where our area of rotation is. Storm's moving pretty quickly. Even that latest scan there tells me this thing is just not near as organized as it once was. I suspect we might be able to cancel this warning a little bit earlier. We will wait to see what the Weather Service decides with that. I will tell you there's some pretty decent inflow coming in right here. You see the overall storm structure. Here's your hook echo. Maybe that is evolving a little bit further upstream. Some of this activity that's not severe, that's going to be just in southern parts of Washington County, that may get in the way of some of that rich, moist air that's being ingested into the storm. That could weaken it, but also sometimes these cell mergers can also enhance rotation. So one of the things we'll have to watch here, I hope though it undercuts some of that warm, moist air that's getting sucked up into that storm. One thing that I am noticing is the lightning perhaps is coming up a little bit in the actual updraft of the storm, and that's one of those signs that, yeah, maybe this thing is starting to tighten back up. Maybe it does have a little bit of juice left with it. We wait between scans to get an idea of where that rotation is. Right now, the overall storm structure certainly shows that hook echo, but when you look at the winds, you look at the rotation itself, it's just not exactly as pronounced as it once was. That potentially could be some good news for us. Let's see what the Weather Service has to say about that. Stephen, if you don't mind, check some RDOT cameras for me over there. Let's see if we don't have any along 49. It's going to be really, really tough to see through the mountains, but it's possible that we might have some vantage of a couple of those that might be pointed off towards the west. Not sure. Worth a shot, though. If you're just now tuning in, the current time is 12:16. We do have a tornado warning in effect for parts of Adair County as well as in Washington County. This warning itself is really small. It includes the Dutch Mills community. We're talking just to the south of Lincoln. Right now, if you're in Lincoln, there's a good chance you're getting woken up from a strong thunderstorm moving through the area, but the rotation, the area of concern just off to your south, it's moving towards the east-northeast. The warning continues to get trimmed. It continues to consolidate, and there it looks like they may have just canceled it as it falls off of the map. Weather Service telling us they're not planning on a new warning. They've allowed it to expire. The rotation has come down as we were seeing there in real time. Let's do this. Before we send you on your way, I want to give you an update on everything that's going on with the rest of the evening. This is one supercell thunderstorm that is actually ahead of the main line of storms. There's some scattered activity spanning, let's say, from eastern Benton County all the way back into parts of soon-to-be LaFleur County. This is all scattered out ahead of the main line, so we want to pay close attention to it for that potential of some severe weather. These are the storms that are going to have more of a tornado potential ahead of the main line. In this line itself, boy, this storm system is packing a punch. You see all those lightning strikes there. Pretty strong, healthy storm system. That's what's going to cause the damaging wind. That's where our straight line winds in excess of 60 miles per hour may come from. So we'll have to be tracking that into the area overnight tonight. Because of that threat existing, there is a tornado watch that's going to be in effect until 3 o'clock for the counties here shaded in yellow. This is going to be Benton, Washington, Crawford, Delaware, Adair, Sequoia. LaFleur is not included in the current watch. That's not to say there might not be a new one issued. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a severe thunderstorm watch issued at some point for eastern portions of our county coverage area, especially across parts of the River Valley on the tail end of that main line segment. I want to go back to live radar here. This is going to be the overall picture. I'll put this into motion. I'm going to loop this over the last hour just so you kind of have a general idea of kind of what we're looking at here. It is starting to pick up a little bit of speed. This storm system has been taking its time over the last several hours, but certainly getting closer. You've got some scattered activity out ahead of it, but folks in northwest Benton County, we're talking Gravette, Decatur, you're probably going to see those winds pick up here pretty soon. You're going to see the lightning, you're going to hear the thunder, and the rain's going to get kind of heavy with this line that's going to continue approaching us. We'll probably not see the impacts of it in the River Valley as early as, say, northwest Arkansas, just given the general orientation of that line, but everyone's going to get rain out of this. I would suspect anywhere between about a half inch, and some folks lucky enough to maybe get an inch of rain out of this system, and we'll have more rain on the way over the next couple of days. Weekend gets rainy, and some of that actually extends over into Monday as well, and there may be a couple more severe weather threats. Right now it is 12:19. We've been tracking a tornado warned storm out of Adair and Washington County. The severe thunderstorm that prompted that tornado warning has fallen below severe limits. We're not seeing the rotation that we once were. In fact, it's not even meeting severe criteria anymore. Nonetheless, we're going to be here watching for this potential to continue probably for the next few hours with this line segment moving on into the area. The cell itself does remain somewhat organized. So I want to take a closer look back into that. There's something about it that's keeping me on air. There's just something about this cell and the way it's behaving. I don't want to just turn it loose just yet. Let me pause that. That was looping over the last hour, and you can see just how quickly it is. There is still a bit of a hook echo. That's going to be just to the west of Prairie Grove. So if you're watching here in Prairie Grove, I don't want to alarm you unnecessarily, but there's no impending threat. That's not to say that might not change quickly over the next 5-10 minutes. We've seen that happen this evening. On this current trajectory, this storm will take where the area of rotation could potentially be, where it has been historically in that hook, into parts of Fayetteville, maybe it's just to the north side of town. Heavy rain in Springdale. In fact, that's going to continue to pick up in intensity over the next few minutes. You look through that updraft where we would expect some of that rotation to be, and there is a decent amount of lightning, and that tells us it's healthy, right? That's one of those things that you can look at and know that, well, this thing is maybe not done just quite yet. Given the overall storm structure, it certainly appears that way. Some of this activity just to the south of Prairie Grove, this is going to be west of 49, tells me that, you know, but maybe that's kind of getting in the way of what could have been a stronger supercell or better organized rotation. For the time being, though, we're all below severe limits. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going anywhere tonight. Okay, we're going to be here all night long until that threat passes. We do want to send you back to regular programming, but just know this. If there's any warning issued, we're going to go ahead and break back into programming. I think we'll stay here on streaming. Let's do that, Stephen.
Okay.
Let's stay on streaming. We're going to stay on Facebook. We're going to be on our mobile devices. And we are also going to stay on our 5 Plus app. If you want to join us there, we'll ride these storms out with you there over the next few hours. If there's a tornado warning issued or any severe aspect that you need to know about, we will also break back in here into programming. For now, for meteorologist Stephen Elmore and the team here at 5 News, I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert, sending you back to regular programming. All right, everyone that's joining us online, thanks for that little patience you gave us there in that transition, getting off of regular programming. Still looks like we've got a pretty strong thunderstorm here in parts of western Washington County. Lincoln right now, that's going to be where we've got intense lightning, some thunder, decent downpours. Boy, some much needed rainfall. It's been so long since we've seen good soaking rains, and this is probably going to be the first of at least a few rounds over the next several days, and boy, that's some good news. I only wish we could do away with the severe weather potential. Unfortunately, that's not something we're going to be able to totally dodge going into the next few days. Not only are we looking at tonight's severe weather potential, tornado watch in effect until 3 a.m., right? But then we're going to have some additional rounds of rain and some thunderstorms by Saturday, Sunday, and even into Monday. That's not to say that every day is going to have a severe weather potential, but given it is fall, which is our secondary severe weather season here in Oklahoma and Arkansas, you got to be very, very mindful of that. Hey, Stephen, while you're at it, will you pull up a Fayetteville RDOT over there? I want to show the around town camera view. Just let me know when it's good to get pulled up. Now, if you'll pull it up on the side, you got Fulbright Expressway over there.
This is going to be Stephen Carr Boulevard.
Stephen Carr. No worries. I'll take control here. I just wanted to show this one right here. Taking a live look around northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Got 6 cameras here giving us a pretty good vantage point of what's happening area-wide. Looks like some of the storms moving into parts of western Benton County as well as western Washington County have had a little bit of rain. You got some raindrops here on our Bentonville camera. Frequent lightning as seen here in Fayetteville. Stephen said this is from Stephen Carr. I think this camera is pointed towards the south, so I'm pretty sure, yep, it says southbound there from RDOT. Thank you folks there at RDOT. You can see that lightning is probably going to be in the core of that storm. Meanwhile, in the River Valley, Fort Smith, Ozark, got Pensacola right here. Not a lot going on yet. Don't worry though, you're going to get your rain. You're going to get some thunderstorms there as well. Looks like I'll step out of the way. Got some heavy lightning there starting to show up on the Springdale camera. That's from our camera that sits on top of the Holiday Inn right there at Sunset Boulevard and 49 in Springdale. That one looks to be pointed off towards the north, I think. So maybe that's looking into some of that activity in Benton County. I want to go back to live radar here. We'll track what's going on. It's nothing severe at the moment. That's not to say that doesn't change quickly. Our main line of thunderstorms that we've been most concerned with now spans southwestern Missouri, so McDonald County, well back towards south central Oklahoma. This is the line of storms that, if we can produce some damaging winds, that's the line that's going to do it. Now, there might be something developing in one of these isolated cells out ahead of the main line. As I said, when we broke into programming for that tornado warning, there very well can be some isolated activity that does quickly develop into a tornado potential. If it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in one of these isolated cells. You've got this one moving out of Benton County, getting ready to cross the state line over into Missouri. Our original cell is now beginning to interact with that southernmost cell that initially probably undercut some of that rotation and allowed that warning to expire. But with that said, sometimes depending on how these things can interact with each other, they very well can enhance some rotation. We've seen that earlier this evening, and that is unfortunately maybe happening right now. Let's pause down, slow that down. These storms are racing tonight, 45 miles an hour. This is pretty quick for these isolated supercells. A little bit of a hook echo here near Prairie Grove. This is probably going to get ingested into new tornado warning. Folks up in the booth, get me on channel 5 quickly. We're going to have to cut back into programming once more. As we were just talking about that, looks like that is exactly what's happening. Tell me when that is going to be on channel 5, please. Prairie Grove under a tornado warning. Springdale, parts of Springdale under a tornado warning. Fayetteville and Farmington, parts of Greenland now under a tornado warning. Trevor, when am I going to get on air? Okay, quickly, please. New tornado warning going to be in effect until 1 a.m. this morning. This does include Fayetteville, Goshen, Springdale, Johnson, Prairie Grove, and Greenland as well. Area of rotation right now near Prairie Grove. Doppler radar indicated. Area of rotation, strong rotation right here near Prairie Grove's Highway 62, Viney Grove Road. Here's where your area of rotation is. If you're just now waking up, tornado warning waking you up on your cell phone, no weather radio alerting you, you need to seek shelter really quickly if you can. If you're in this tornado warning, it also includes Farmington and Fayetteville, also includes parts of Greenland. This storm is moving quickly, right? There's not a whole lot of time to get to that safe place. You need to get there really, really quickly if you can. 45 miles per hour is the general storm track, and that takes it into Fayetteville over the next few minutes. I want to put a timeline on this. Let me make sure it's still at 45. Still at 45. We put an estimate on that, and that's going to take it into Farmington at 12:35, puts it around Bud Walton Arena at 12:40, Razorback Stadium, of course, at 12:40, downtown Fayetteville Square, 12:41, Johnson at 12:45. Right now, current time is 12:27, right?
Yes.
Yep, 12:27. That's going to put it at Springdale, 12:50, Goshen at 12:54. Here are some estimated times of arrival. Doppler radar indicated rotation has really picked up with this storm, okay? Here's your area of rotation. It's going to be moving right in here through Prairie Grove along Highway 62. If you live along 62, you got to act quickly, all right? Not only do we have that potential of a tornado that's likely developing if it hasn't already developed, you also have some hailstones with that cell as well. Doppler radar has indicated this. There's not going to be a lot of reports that come out of this area just given the time of night it is. So we're probably not going to see reports until after it's too late. We only have to rely on Doppler radar. Farmington, you're next. This is going to be moving into your neck of the woods at any moment. Your area of rotation now pretty strong. Those oranges tell us we've got some pretty strong winds moving away from the radar. You butt that up next to those greens that are moving into the radar. This is where we're probably going to have some rotation. This does include the campus of University of Arkansas. It does include Farmington, north side of Greenland. It does include Goshen, Johnson, and Springdale as well. This will probably be crossing I-49 within the next 10 minutes, okay? If you live anywhere in Fayetteville, you are included in this tornado warning that is set to expire at 1 a.m. So we've got about 30 minutes to go. Springdale's also included in this tornado warning. Looks like it stops there at the Benton, Washington County line. I want to show you live Doppler radar. Let's see how this is interacting. One thing I've been watching is how is this cell south of the storm getting ingested and into the actual supercell itself, and that's likely going to dictate whether or not we see an enhanced area of rotation, or maybe sometimes, just maybe, it can also undercut that rotation, but we're not seeing that yet. What we are seeing in this moment, current time 12:29, is a pretty strong area of rotation now just to the west of Highway 62, and it's moving pretty quickly up towards the north and east. This is going to be crossing probably 49. Let's see, how far away is it? I'm going to measure this. So we're just about 5 miles away, 5 miles west of Interstate 49, okay? This is where our strong rotation is. You can see where those oranges and those greens are really meeting up. That's Doppler radar telling us there's actually some pretty tight rotation. Looks like we might have an update on that warning. Let me see what the new information is. Okay, we're gonna extend the watch, the tornado watch, into Madison and Carroll County. So I'll show you that watch in just a moment. I want to stick with this tornado warning right now that we've got for a good chunk of Washington County. This is going to be going over a very populated area. So a lot of folks just now waking up. Stephen, if you could, I want you watching those cameras. Pull me up. There's one in Weddington. There's one on Stephen Carr. Stephen Carr's pointed towards the south. That may be a pretty good one to look into.
Right, this is mile marker 59. This is pointing northbound. This is giving that overlooking shot. It's a little fuzzy right now. Let's see here. I can get you pulled up on that 6 box.
Okay, click, if you could click Fayetteville.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll click it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Open it up. Okay, so this is 49. We're looking, campus is going to be, looks like right over here. You can generally see campus. So we're going to see that storm cross from over in that direction. Stephen, keep an eye on that.
Yep.
I want to go back to live radar. I want to stick with that until you see something. If you see a lowering there, please let me know. National Weather Service continuing this tornado warning. Right now it is radar indicated. I want to go back to rotation. Let's get an idea of exactly where the center of that circulation is. It's moving really quickly, folks. So this isn't really something, if you're in this tornado warning, it's not something that you have a whole lot of time to really contend with, right? I wouldn't necessarily wait it out. This storm is racing at about 45 miles an hour, and that is going to put it in downtown Fayetteville over the next few minutes. In fact, let's just put a new time on it, make sure we're still moving in a general vicinity. ETA looks like this. Farmington High School, 1231. Downtown Farmington, 1232. Campus at the U of A, 1237. VA at 1239. Sonora, 1250. Creech at 1255. That's assuming it doesn't speed up or slow down. I hope that helps you make some plans. Right now, I would tell you, though, if you live in this tornado warning polygon, anywhere in this red box, it's a pretty serious situation. That rotation is pretty tightly wound up. The supercell itself continues to maintain a pretty decent structure. New scans coming in maybe shows us that rotation's a little bit broader than it once was. But as we saw a few minutes ago, when this was warned coming out of Adair County, Oklahoma, these things pulse up and these pulse down. So while we aren't seeing necessarily that really tight rotation couplet that we were a few scans ago, in fact, I can back it up and show you. Going through Prairie Grove, it looks like that rotation was really strong going through Prairie Grove. You can see just how tightly those opposing wind motions are. But then you go to current, so a few more minutes into the future, and you see that, yeah, maybe it's not as strong as it once was, but nonetheless, certainly some really strong rotation getting ready to move into the west side of Fayetteville. Looks like we've got a wind gust of 29 knots at the airport at Drakefield. So that's going to be just to the east of the storm, southeast of the storm. Our area of concern remains right here. This is generally moving off towards the north and east. We're probably approaching Fulbright Expressway at this point, just given how delayed sometimes these radar scans can be, right? It takes a little bit of time for that data to get ingested into the computers and distributed out. So this is probably 1 or 2 minutes old at this point. Given the general trajectory and speed of the storm, I suspect we're probably looking at that area of rotation to be a little bit further to the west side of Fayetteville. We're talking Weddington Drive, more than likely approaching Stephen Carr at this point. And soon we're talking about rotation that will likely be moving in the vicinity of downtown Fayetteville, which would include parts of the University of Arkansas campus. I want to go back over to live radar, and what we're going to see here is the overall storm structure remains healthy. We do continue to see that hook echo right here. This is probably one of the ways that we could quickly identify where the rotation might be, and I would say it probably is. They're just to the east of Prairie Grove, west of Fayetteville, close to the Farmington area, and it's moving off towards the north and east. Goshen is included in this tornado warning, as is Springdale, Johnson, Fayetteville, north side of Greenland, also included in this tornado warning. If you're just now waking up and joining us, the current time is 12:34. We have a tornado warning in effect until 1 a.m. this morning. That includes Farmington, Fayetteville, Prairie Grove, and Springdale, among some of those other locations I've mentioned previously. We have a supercell thunderstorm, just one. That's out ahead of the main line. That's still back in Oklahoma. That's eventually going to cause us some issues later on this morning. And that in of itself presents a situation where this supercell is able to tap into all of the moisture, all of the ingredients, and the instability, when you drill down to it, that's available only for this storm to tap into. And that's why we start to see these supercells really blossom and develop. And it's why when we see an isolated supercell like this out ahead of the main line that you start to get concerned. We were tracking this thing back in southeastern Oklahoma, and we thought to ourselves, yep, that one may cause us some problems, and it looks like that is certainly going to be the case for the next little bit. It's not as clear, it's not as clean cut as it once was a few minutes ago. It does look like it's ingesting some of this scattered activity out near West Fork, the inflow into that system. might do us a favor in the short term by meaning it's less organized and maybe that rotation weakens, but sometimes after that cell merger can induce some enhanced rotation a few minutes later. So I don't think our threat's over with, right? Okay, I think right now we have a supercell that's struggling to maintain the rotation that it once was, but it's not necessarily meaning the threat is over with. There's still some broad rotation, those greens meeting up with the reds right here on the west side of Fayetteville, soon to move into the downtown area over the next few minutes. Here's what I'd like to do. Stephen, I need you to do me a favor. This area of rotation is going to pass really near our station.
Yeah.
I need you to make a sweep through the station.
Got it.
And make sure everyone is in their tornado safe spot. There's not a lot of folks here this evening, but if anyone is in the building, I need you to go ahead and seek shelter. I'll join you if that moment has to happen. But right now, I track rotation moving pretty much right on top of I-49, maybe just off to the east of 49, getting a little bit closer to the Fulbright Expressway. Soon that's going to be moving into downtown Fayetteville, if not there at this moment. Right now, if there is anything on the ground, if there is a tornado, it's likely rain wrapped. There's going to be near zero visibility just given how much heavy rain is falling where the area of rotation actually is. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going outside and trying to see anything. There's a very slim possibility that you're actually going to be able to see anything at all. I'm keeping my eye on all of our cameras across the area. Got a lot of lightning out there, and occasionally you can maybe try to pinpoint something, but even then the odds are pretty low that we're going to be able to see a lowering, a potential tornado, a wall cloud, or anything of that nature. So we rely on radar, and right now it shows us there is some pretty broad rotation. Certainly not as strong as it once was, but broad rotation nonetheless. Maybe it's tightening up just a little bit here just to the east of 49. That's going to be near that Fulbright Expressway, right? Getting close to College. I would say probably between 49 and College is where we're seeing that area of rotation. A lot of lightning here at the station. I can see that kind of interfering with some of our electronics here this evening. And this is going to be tracking off towards the north and east. So Goshen, you're next in line. If you're in Goshen, I'd like to go ahead and take some of those tornado safety precautions if you would. Sonora, you're probably next in line as well. Generally speaking, it kind of just depends on if this storm is going to stay due east-northeast as it has been, or does it maybe take a more of a right-hand turn? You got some time to figure that out. If you're in the warning, I'd go ahead and take your tornado safety precautions nonetheless. Prairie Grove, I'll give you the all clear for now. This storm has now passed off towards your east. It is squarely in Fayetteville. Downtown Fayetteville right now is where this area of rotation continues to be, and it is going to be tracking off towards the 265. Likely next is probably where we're going to see if there is any actual rotation out there this evening. Stephen, all good in the studio? Okay, excellent. If you're just not joining us, it's 12:38. We've got one tornado warning out ahead of the main line. It's loud, there's a lot of lightning, there's a lot of thunder. Our threat, though, is in Fayetteville right now. Then we'll turn our attention, when we have to this line of storms that's going to be approaching us from the west. That one very well could be packing a punch as well in terms of damaging winds, maybe some pockets of hail. And yes, there's even going to be a little bit of a tornado threat there. But right now, our primary concern remains in Washington County. Looks like we've updated that warning. We've taken out a few cities and locations that is no longer in the path of this storm. Farmington remains in the warning. Fayetteville, Johnson, Springdale remains in this warning. You can see it pulsing there. It includes all of Fayetteville, really. I think the threat right now is probably near downtown Fayetteville, but soon is going to be passing off over towards the east of downtown Fayetteville. Goshen, my concern turns to you folks next. I want to take a look at velocity, and velocity is our wind product, and it tells us where the rotation is, and it may be starting to come back up a little bit right here. You can see some brighter greens and some brighter greens here and some brighter oranges here, and while it's not tight, in a tight area of rotation is what I would expect to produce a tornado. That doesn't mean it's not actually rotating there as well, okay? It's broad, but that doesn't mean it might not tighten up within the next couple of scans. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not tight enough in of itself right now to produce a tornado, but it's not as tight as it has been over the last few scans, especially when they prompted that tornado warning in western Washington County. New data coming in here. I don't know if there's anything anyone can do up in the booth, but I'm losing my monitors from the lightning, kind of making it tough to see. If there's not, I can deal with it. We're all good. Let's see. One single supercell that's causing us issues this evening. Your area of rotation now just off towards the east of Fayetteville. This is going to be just to the south of Springdale. You're probably hearing a lot of lightning and thunder in Springdale. Heavy rain out there as well. I've not seen much in the way of hail yet. Okay, let's see. I'm going to back this up. Okay. Getting some updates just from the National Weather Service, making sure they're not updating anything, and it looks like we're still good. Radar indicated. We've not seen any actual reports, whether that's visual or damage reports coming out of this system. That's not to say that might not be the case. It's just meaning it's dark outside. It's tough to see, despite all the cameras out there and all the lightning and all the thunder. Just listening outside of the studio. We're kind of in this threat too, so I wanted to hear what that was. We're probably right here, so this threat's now just off to our east, so we're going to see things calm down pretty quickly here in Fayetteville. While you've still got some lightning, you've still got some thunder in Fayetteville, it's quickly racing off towards the east. Goshen, I'm talking to you folks here. If you live along 45, anywhere between Fayetteville, so East Fayetteville into Goshen along State Highway 45, that area of concern is likely going to be passing into your area real soon. If you live on, I think 265 and probably 45 is probably where that area of rotation is, right in this general vicinity. It's getting impacted by some of this activity getting ingested out of the Elkins area. That could be some good news for us, okay? That could help mitigate some of that rotation. I think that might be what's happening. That's not to say, though, that it might not ingest all of that shower activity to the south and actually use it to enhance the rotation. But for right now, generally speaking, that rotation is not as strong as it once was. Here's some new information, new data. Yep, it's definitely some strong rotation, but not near as strong as it was. Strong enough, though, that they're going to continue with the warning. Right now, this is set to expire at 1 a.m., so we've got, looks like about 20 or so more minutes to go before this warning either expires or they extend it into parts of Madison County. You're not included, Madison. Benton is not included, but generally speaking, if the storm is to maintain its current path, it could put War Eagle, it could put parts of northwestern Madison County in the zone that would have to be included in a tornado warning. I want to bring in meteorologist Stephen Elmore. I'll turn this over to you. I'm going to track something off air, and I will be right back.
Yeah, I want to talk to a specific group here that may be tuning in, maybe for the first time, college students on the campus, right? I want to give you some just quick information real quick. Again, this may be the first time you're watching something like this somewhere from elsewhere else in the country. Again, right now we have that tornado warning that does include downtown Fayetteville, but when it comes to the rotation, it looks like it's weakening some just a bit. We're still keeping an eye on it, and if anything, it looks like it's passing off towards the east of Fayetteville right now. You probably got those alerts on your phone. You probably heard a lot of that lightning outside as well, but while we're still watching that rotation, it's not very defined right now. So it's just a radar indicated is what we call it when it comes to what we see on our end. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing some of that spin. When it comes to confirming it, not so much right now. Again, that warning is going to go out for another 15 to 20 minutes right now. But this is our only warning that we have. Again, this cell is ahead of the initial line of thunderstorms that's going to produce the chances for some strong damaging winds. That's going to also produce chances for more of that severe weather threat as we go on throughout the rest of the night tonight. So we're going to be keeping you updated on this. This is that one cell right now, still tornado warned, but it's just radar indicated. I'll go ahead and send it back over to Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert.
Really looking in at East Fayetteville and Goshen. That's where we're going to find the primary concern, especially along Highway 45. There are a lot of roads that are going to be popping up here, and if you can see yours, North Goldie Road, Skillern, Rome Orchard Township, Fox Trail, several of these roads that are off branches of State Highway 45, east side of Fayetteville, going into Goshen. That's where our area of concern is right now. Broad area of rotation among what has been a respectable supercell that has produced some Doppler radar indicated rotation. Here's what we're looking at. You've got some greens here. That is winds blowing towards the Fort Smith radar. Reds blowing away from the Fort Smith radar. They meet up and they start to dance. advance. They start to spin, and that's where we see that Doppler radar indicated rotation generally moving now into the eastern portions of Washington County. It does not include Elkins. We're okay in Elkins. Goshen is going to be next in line with this storm as it continues trying to track off towards the east-northeast. I think that's going to be our concern, but that doesn't all mean Sonora isn't included. I think you very well need to be taking your safety precautions there as well, especially if you live along 412 outside of Springdale over into Madison County along 412. Let's go ahead and get ready. You're probably going to be next in line after that. Weather Service trimming Fayetteville out of the warning. So if you live parts of Fayetteville, I want to be really clear on that. If you live in downtown Fayetteville or east of 49, all clear. If you live west of 49. If you live west of 49, all clear. If you live east of 49, the threat continues as this rotation is kind of maintaining itself. Over the last couple of hour scans, it has weakened, but it's still there, right? Like it's not going away despite the fact that it isn't as strong as it once was. So that's why they continue with this warning. Probably going to let it ride out until it expires, if not extended a little bit further on. It's set to expire at 1 o'clock this morning. You're starting to see some of those showers that were to the south of the storm get ingested into it right here along 45. That's why we're kind of honing in on that area right there as this continues to track between 412 and Highway 45 eastern Washington County. This is going to be moving close to the Goshen community, likely just to the south of 412. That's going to be our primary concern. This storm maybe is slowing down just a little bit. In fact, earlier it was moving at about 45 miles per hour. Looks like the Weather Service has it down. I'm still saying about 45 miles per hour now, just to the 3 miles east-northeast of Fayetteville. I'll go ahead and put a storm track on this that's going to take this into Madison County. Get an idea, even though you're not technically in the warning, should they extend, or even if it's just going to be a strong thunderstorm, you'll have an idea of when to expect it. Put this into Clifty around 109. Rock House 119 and Eureka Springs around 120. That's assuming it maintains its strength. That's not necessarily to say it's going to continue as a tornado-warned storm that entire way, but it's certainly possible that we could continue to see at least strong thunderstorms out ahead of that main line. I'll take a broader perspective here. We'll zoom out. We do have the one tornado warning that is in Washington County, but we're also tracking a nasty line of storms that extends well into parts of Oklahoma that's slowly but surely getting closer and closer. At that point, what's going to be most common in this line itself is going to be some damaging winds. We're talking straight line winds in excess of 60, upwards of about 70 miles per hour. Embedded within that line, sure, there can be spin ups, and it's not uncommon to get some tornadoes brief in nature to spin up along those lines. But out ahead of it, where we don't have the linear nature of those storms, this is where we have more favored environment for the potential of tornadoes. That's why the Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center extended that watch out to about 3 a.m. this morning for Benton, Washington, Crawford, Adair, and Sequoia counties. I want to take a closer look back into our storm here in Washington County. Tornado warning remains in effect until 1 o'clock. You're noticing it's not as organized as it once was. Kind of hard to pick out that classic Cook Echo notch. Velocity, or our rotation tracker, does show there is still a broad area of rotation and getting closer and closer to Goshen. I know we got a text message in. I saw it come in on my phone asking about Goshen, right? I continue to see some area of rotation just off to your west, but only by a mile or two. So basically, by the time you're hearing my voice, this rotation is probably going to be really close into the Goshen community. Eventually, it is going to cross State Highway 412. That puts it in far northeastern Washington County before eventually moving into southeastern Benton, northwestern Madison County. Fayetteville, I'm going to go ahead and give you the all clear, okay? If you're in downtown Fayetteville, west of I-49, if you're in Springdale, you're technically in this warning, but what's going to happen is eventually the Weather Service is going to trim you out or they're going to cancel the warning entirely. But the threat has passed off to your east. So if you're wanting to go back to bed downtown Fayetteville or west of 49, you're clear from this specific storm. Not to say there might not be some more, right, with that line that's moving through, but this specific storm is now off to your east. Broad area rotation continues. Here's exactly where we would find it. I've not seen any debris. I've been looking off radar, off air at times at some of our debris trackers, and we're not seeing really any of that. If you saw it, it would be a really bright dot of blue mixing in there, and we just really haven't seen that. And that's some good news. That's not to say there might not have been a touchdown. It's certainly possible that happened between radar scans and we just missed the debris up in the atmosphere. But right now, still looking at some broad area of rotation. rotation here. Weather Service continuing with this warning. They're saying, you know what? Yeah, we agree that the rotation probably isn't as strong as it once was, but there's enough of it still there that we don't necessarily want to cancel that tornado warning just yet. So the warning continues till 1 o'clock unless they extend it a little bit further. And Goshen winds are certainly picking up, starting to see that rotation on the southern flank of that storm. It's not as organized as it once was. There is good news here. I do think we're moving in a generally a good direction with this specific storm, but that's not to say it doesn't change. These storms are so cyclical. They'll pulse up and they'll pulse down. They'll ingest other storms and briefly weaken before re-emerging on the other side of that cell merger as stronger supercells, more capable of producing tornadoes than they once were. So I'm not ready to let my guard down with this storm, but right now I'm not necessarily as concerned with its current status as I was when it was moving through parts of Prairie Grove earlier this evening, even into parts of Fayetteville. It exhibited much stronger rotation as it was moving just to the west of 49 and 71 there. This is it. This is our only warning at the moment. The watch is in place until 3 a.m., but this is the only actual warning. Even along the main line, there's no actual severe thunderstorm warnings right now with this specific storm. I'll take a broader perspective once more all across the 5 News viewing area. If you're just now tuning in, you probably had a little bit of storm anxiety, and I totally get that. We've been tracking this storm all day, and I know when we do that, sometimes folks have trouble sleeping, and so I want to get you through the storm and walk you through it with the information that we have. We can pass it along to you, and hopefully that provides you a little bit of comfort. This is our one cell, but then we're quickly going to turn our attention to this guy right here. This is our line, our squall line of thunderstorms, and this has exhibited some severe weather in parts of Oklahoma over the last several hours. Right now, it's packing a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder, some gusty winds, and you can see it's inching closer now, moving into parts of northwestern Benton County, in an area that probably has a lot of storm anxiety, and that's certainly something I'm sympathetic to. And so if you're waking up in Decatur, Centerton, even Rogers, Bentonville, and you're just thinking, oh boy, here's the thing. We're going to get you through it. It's all good, right? I know these things can be scary, especially after you've gone through what you have in such recent months. Right now, though, our only area of rotation is northeastern Washington County. That tornado warning set to expire at 1 o'clock. So we have about 8 more minutes to go before that warning is allowed to expire. Actually, the Weather Service has said, you know what? The rotation is weak enough that we're going to go ahead and cancel the warning entirely. So brand new right now, that warning has fallen off of your screen. The rotation is no longer enough to warrant a tornado warning. That means the threat, at least for the time being, has subdued, and we can let our guard down for the moment. We're going to be here all night watching as this line moves through, just in case something doesn't try to spin up there, or just in case something out ahead of the line, which is certainly going to be more concerning, just in case something doesn't get organized there. You've got some scattered shower activity now in Madison County, as well as Carroll, Crawford, Sequoia, LaFleur County, some scattered thunderstorms out there. First time we've seen and heard rain in what feels like a really long time, right? I do want to take a look at something. Let's see how many power outages are being reported across Washington County, where that storm moved through. That could give us an indication if we had something. Looks like there's a little more than 2,100 customers currently without power in Washington County. That's about 1.7% of customers across the county. Certainly could have been straight line winds with that system. Very well could have been a tornado as it moved through the area. It certainly had some strong rotation in parts of Prairie Grove. What I'd like to do is get our crews mobilized and get out there and see if we can't see the potential of some of that damage. The majority of that might be coming from the Prairie Grove area, which is where that tornado rotation was pretty strong. So right now, we have no warnings. It's currently 12:54. I think I'm going to stick with it right here for folks. I'm going to let this go a few more scans and see if we can't let that threat truly diminish before we send you back to regular programming. Even when we do that, I want you to know this. Even when we send you back to regular programming, I've got the team here all night. We're not going to go anywhere until the storms are totally past. Tornado watch is going to continue for all of our area until 3 a.m. And of course, we'll have the morning news at 4:30, beginning at 4:30, continuing into the 8 o'clock hour. We'll be here until that is totally past. I'll tell you though, the further east this storm gets, so once it starts to push into Johnson, Logan, eventually into Scott County, it's likely going to be exhibiting somewhat of a weakening trend. The longer you get after sunset, you'll lose the heat of the day. these storms don't have as much fuel, and that helps us out, helps mitigate some of that severe weather risk. It doesn't mean it erases it entirely, right? It just kind of weakens it a little bit. One of the reasons I wanted to stay here, despite the fact there is no tornado warning, is there still is enough structure with this storm as it's getting ready to move into Madison County that, you know what, it may not be totally done yet. In fact, you can kind of easily see where the rotation is. It's now just to the east-northeast of Goshen. It's very broad, not enough to actually prompt a tornado warning, but broad enough that I would certainly keep my eyes peeled, especially if I live anywhere along 412 there between, let's say, Springdale and Huntsville. I think the area of rotation's right on the Washington-Madison County line. It's going to be right here. You can see those oranges meeting up with the greens. This is going to be our primary area of concern, passing off towards the north and east, eventually into north central Madison County. That was an area that was also pretty hard hit back in the tornadoes earlier this spring. Stephen, if you would, let's go ahead and call Michael.
Yep.
Let's get some field crews mobilized. I'd like to get some folks going to Prairie Grove if possible.
They're heading out there.
Okay, fantastic. So we got some crews that's going to be heading out to Prairie Grove. That's where we are getting some damage reports, preliminary damage reports coming in. So let's see if we can't track some more information on that. Okay. I'm not ready to go back to regular programming. Look, I want you to know this. I hate breaking into regular programming. I think that you folks at home want to enjoy your television. I respect that. It's the last thing I want to do. But when safety is in question, I'm going to do it every time. And that is the issue that we're facing this evening. A little bit of rotation maintaining itself right here on the Washington-Madison County line. Until that totally goes away, I can't in good faith send you back to regular programming. So I'm going to stick with it for a couple more scans. We'll get some more data to come in and make sure that's actually going to weaken before we actually give you the all clear there. Right now, there's no actual warning. That's the good news with this storm. It doesn't necessarily have the best storm structure overall. In fact, I would consider this pretty messy, right? Very scattered activity here. Here's Huntsville. Clifty's going to be right here. We're looking just off towards the west. Pretty strong thunderstorm. Now moving over Beaver Lake. You're probably seeing a lot of lightning out there. You're hearing the thunder. Meanwhile, our actual main line is probably catching up to this system out ahead of it. That's not necessarily uncommon. When the main line catches up with it and overtakes it, you really transition that threat from an isolated linear potential that could spawn some tornadoes to more of a damaging wind risk. And while we don't necessarily want damaging wind, that certainly is a bit more comfortable to have to contend with, right? I think we would prefer that over spin-up tornadoes, which is what this cell has probably done over the last couple of hours. Initially, this cell was producing some rotation in Adair County, finally got strong enough. They issued that tornado warning for Adair, parts of western Washington, briefly fell apart, and they reissued a new tornado warning pretty quickly as that storm system spun back up. Got some new information here from the National Weather Service with regards to this specific cell. It's probably got some 40-mile-per-hour winds, and it's right over Hobbs State Park. In addition to the 40-mile-per-hour winds, it very well could have some penny-sized hail coming out of it. I'll take a look at Hail Tracker, see what we can see. And yeah, it certainly looks like there might be a little bit of hail right there along 412. This is going to be just to the east of Springdale. Not the largest of hail, penny size, so on the smaller end of the scale. A severe thunderstorm warning gets issued when hail sizes are 1 inch in diameter or greater, 1 inch being about the size of a quarter, and we're well below that, which is some good news. Did we have any hail earlier? Looks like we probably had a few hailstones from Lincoln through Fayetteville, south side of Springdale, and continuing into the northeast parts of Washington County at this time. Looking at that rotation, it's really weak, but it's still there. Hinesville, that's going to be where we find the rotation, just to the west side of town. Along 412, where 412 interchanges with 303 there. That's probably where we've got that issue of rotation. It's moving towards the northeast, so it's going to move into the Clifty area over the next few minutes, probably within the next 10 minutes or so, I would say. These storms have been moving relatively quickly over the last several hours, especially this evening. This one specifically was moving at about 45 miles an hour, which is really quick for some of these thunderstorms, especially when you're talking about the potential of a tornado and it's moving that quickly. It doesn't give you a lot of time to take shelter. So if you do have a tornado warning issued for your location this evening, just know this: you don't necessarily have a whole lot of time to get the kids up, to get the tennis shoes on, and to move to that shelter or that safe location. it's going to be moving into your neck of the woods quickly if that warning is issued. Right now we don't have any though. That is the good news. We'll take a area-wide perspective. I do want to show you the tornado watch that's going to be in effect until 3 o'clock this morning. We did add Carroll and we did add Madison County, so that's new. That was extended over into Carroll and Madison when we were in the thick of that tornado warning moving through parts of central Washington County. So you might have missed that. Everyone here in yellow is going to be in our tornado watch until 3 a.m. this morning. Pink in southern Missouri, that's going to be your severe thunderstorm watch. As this line progresses, it's really going to start to transition that threat into more of a damaging wind potential with a secondary tornado threat. Most likely it is in fact going to be a damaging straight line 60-mile-per-hour wind issue for us. I want to take a live look at radar. What we'll do is we'll loop this over the last hour or so, get a general idea of how quickly these storms are moving, the general direction that they're moving. Looks like that cell might be trying to organize a little bit more going into Carroll County, northern Madison, parts of southern Carroll County. If you have anyone watching in Eureka Springs, it's not severe right now, but certainly starting to take on a little bit of a structure, a little bit of a shape that we don't necessarily love. Some scattered activity extending back into southern Madison, eastern Washington, northern Crawford, as well as in Sequoia and LaFleur County out ahead of it. We're going to watch all of this really closely, taking a really tight look at any potential rotation that develops in any of this activity, just given the nature of these cells out ahead of it. Weather Service is telling us in Madison County, the environment ahead of that storm in northern Madison County is the same as it was in Washington County. And the reason they're pointing that out to us right now is they're saying, you know what, that cell may be a little bit weaker right now, but that's not to say it might not pulse back up as it moves into Madison County. Once that is moved out of Madison County, that's technically going to be outside of our viewing area. And I think at that point we can go ahead and send you back to regular programming. Again, it's not something I love to do, to type your television this evening. I promise you we wish we weren't doing that. But nonetheless, when safety is in question, we're going to do it 100% of the time. And that's the decision we're making out there this evening. Relative velocity, which is one of our ways we measure wind speeds, and when direction does show a weak area of rotation near Hinesville this evening, it's not enough to prompt a tornado warning. There's no immediate imminent danger. In fact, most folks would probably be shocked by the amount of rotation that actually happens that is never even enough to prompt a tornado warning, and you never even know any different about it. And that's kind of what we're looking at there this evening. Just in case we have any folks that are watching there in northwestern Madison County, I'll take a tighter look here. Area of rotation right here along 412. Here's Hinesville, and we're pretty much right on top of it, maybe just to the north side of the highway there. That's going to cross 45 real soon, probably moving towards Clifty. Got a few friends there in Clifty from way back in the day. They run a good farm there, and they suffered a little bit of damage back in those tornadoes that moved through during Memorial Day, and so I'm sure we're hoping to dodge a bullet there this evening, and hopefully we can get this out of here without any more warnings being issued. But right now, this is the concern. We've got a very weak area of rotation. It's not enough to prompt a warning, but that can change, right? That can change at any moment. I want to bring back meteorologist Stephen Elmore in. Stephen, I'm going to let you take a tour of the area on Doppler radar. I'm going to look back at some damage, see if I can't find some more information on the Prairie Grove damage.
Yeah, if we take a look DMA wide of where these storms have gone through, again, remember, like Scott's been mentioning, this has been the one cell that's moved through. It was a very healthy cell. He mentioned that we can see it pulse back up. That's why we're staying on programming, just to keep an eye on it, because we've already seen it to the point where it was a tornado warning earlier this evening, and then that warning was allowed to expire, and then just about 15-20 minutes later, as it was going into Prairie Grove and into Fayetteville, that warning was reissued up. So that's what these cells can do, especially when they're all out there by themselves. They can pulse up and down. Right now, we're in a good place where it's kind of trending on downward just a bit, enough to where we don't have that warning right now, but still seeing some signs to where we just want to stick with it for a little bit longer. If you've been watching us the past couple of days, we weren't necessarily talking about the chances for isolated cell. The main story was this straight-line wind threat and the potential of these straight-line storms moving through as well. That's what we still see. It's just further out towards the west right now. We're just keeping an eye on this one cell out ahead of that front. When we take a closer look at it, we can go full screen here, there in the control room. You see the potential for that straight line wind threat later on this evening. Northwest Arkansas, Benton County, that's where we're seeing that right now. Hey, Trevor, we can go ahead and take this full real quick. All right, only nobody in the control room right now. So let's go ahead, there we go. Let's go ahead and zoom it into Benton, Northwest Arkansas right now. Again, you see when we're at 104 right now, that line of thunderstorms that's been really the main talker over the past couple of days is just moving into Northwest Arkansas right now. And for the past 30 minutes to an hour, we haven't really seen much in the way of any severe threat with it. It's all been below the severe level, no warnings being produced as of now. That can change as we go on throughout the rest of this evening. It's moving into a new environment that's only been battling with this one cell, so there might still be enough energy out there to reproduce some of that severe weather. The main concerns are obviously going to be the potential for some strong straight line winds, the potential for some hail, even though we haven't seen much. And then along that line of thunderstorms, we can see some of those notches that can result in a potential tornado warning. That's what we're going to be working on over the next couple of hours, and seeing if this line moves into an environment that would be capable of producing some more of that severe weather. So Northwest Arkansas right now just seeing some of that heavier rainfall into extreme northwest Benton County, places that got hit by the tornado months ago. So again, some of that storm anxiety coming back in. If you're watching us in northwestern Benton County, it's raining right now. There might be some lightning in the area, some thunder in the area. I know you may have some anxiety, especially after what we saw earlier this year, but there's nothing severe right now. It's just some much needed rainfall. When we look across the river valley, you see a little bit of a different story. So right now we have some of those scattered showers still, a few scattered showers moving parts of northern LaFleur County into southern Sequoia County, just south of Fort Smith. And then we also got a few of these isolated showers that we're still looking at, nothing in the way of severe weather, but just some of that rain ahead of the line of thunderstorms that obviously is still battling into that environment that we're going to be keeping a closer eye on north of Alma into Mountainburg, Winslow area. If you're up early this morning or you have family that's up early this morning driving along 49, got some heavy rainfall coming down through that area right across southern Washington County into northern Crawford County. But again, when we take it out wide and show you kind of the wider perspective of this, when it comes to that straight line wind threat in this line of thunderstorms for the river valley, we've still got a while to go. I think we may not even see that line arrive until maybe we get closer towards 2, maybe 2:30. The good news is this rain is hopefully going to last throughout most of the morning hours. And if we can avoid the severe weather, you know it as much as we do, we need this rain right now. We have gone almost 2 months with little to no rainfall to talk about. This is our first round. Good news is dry for Halloween. And then by the time we get to this weekend, more rain chances back into the forecast. Early November is going to be a really good thing for us when it comes to lots of rainfall back into the forecast. Outside of tonight, and maybe by the time we get to the end of the weekend, early into next week, that's where we're keeping our eyes still for the chances for some of those thunderstorms. Good news is right now, as you see there on Doppler radar, not seeing any warnings right now, just some good rainfall, some good thunderstorms as well, but nothing necessarily that we're watching too closely. Take a look at chat right now with the National Weather Service. Again, they were talking about earlier when it comes to the environment, still watching that cell that's moving into Carroll County right now, even though it's well below the severe limits. But also we're starting to see that Prairie Grove area starting to get some of those damage reports coming in. If you were with us earlier, you heard Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert talking about getting our crews mobilized. We're going ahead and do that already. Folks who are in Prairie Grove may be seeing some of that damage already. Our crews are on the way to start to see that damage. May not see most of it until we get to sunlight. But again, that looks to be what could be our greatest concern right now, where that community got hit hardest at. And then as we saw that cell moving into the Fayetteville area, started to weaken just a bit. The main concern still to go the rest of the night, and why we're still hanging on with you, is this line of thunderstorms that's still tracking into northwest Arkansas and eventually into the river valley. That's what Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert's going to walk you through.
Everybody to text us your reports, 479-785-5000. Specifically, I am looking at the potential for some damage in Prairie Grove, which is where we saw some strong rotation move through the area. Now, it's far too early for me to say that that rotation developed a tornado, and that's why we're seeing some damage. But that is a real possibility that's going to have to be looked at, especially when the sun comes up tomorrow. Look, it could have just been some damaging winds, and hopefully that's all it was. But if you've got damage or you know of any, that's my number here at the station, 479-785-5000. I would love to get your reports. If you could, just include your name so that we can give you proper credit. I want to bring, if we can give, there we go, there I am, just like magic. I just appear right back there on your television screens. I want to take one more look into the velocity or the rotation of that cell that's in northern Madison County. There's a little bit there, but it is really broadened out. And at this point, we're really seeing this threat morph over into more of a straight line wind potential here near Clifty. That's going to be just to the north of Huntsville there in Madison County. So feeling a little bit better about that specific storm for the time being. Before we send you back to regular programming, I want to give you just an area-wide picture of what the radar looks like. We've got a long line of thunderstorms spanning Benton County, back towards Delaware, Adair County, well into southern Oklahoma. That's continuing to track off towards the east-northeast. I think we're going to see some straight line winds out of that line, but there at times could be some brief spin-ups. And what we mean by that is embedded within that line, there could be some areas of some rotation. If that happens and that tornado warning is issued, we're already going to be here. We're going to be set up and ready to go, and we'll break back into programming, and we'll jump on Facebook Live and on 5+. But for the time being, there's no actual immediate severe weather threat, okay? What's going to happen over the next few hours is a lot of us is going to get some good, beneficial, soaking rain, and that's some good news. If something changes with regards to severe weather, we're going to jump back in. So at this time, I'm going to sign us off here for meteorologist Stephen Elmore and myself and the crews here at 5 News. We'll go ahead and send you back to regular programming. We still on streaming? Yep. Excellent. We're still on streaming. Looking at some photos here, getting some reports coming into the area. Just trying to see. I got a photo out of Fayetteville as that area of rotation moved into. I don't think Stephen's mic's.
There we go. Well, Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert is looking through those photos right now. We're starting to evaluate some of the damage that may have come through the area. If you're still with us on the live streaming platform, again, I want to draw you to your attention to what we're seeing on Doppler radar right now, and it's that straight line wind threat with the line of thunderstorms still coming in. If we go ahead and take this full and take a look at what we're seeing on Doppler radar, you can see the potential later on tonight. Again, you still may need to wait a little bit if you're in the river valley, especially when it comes to seeing any of that rainfall. Haven't seen much so far, but we definitely had a strong cell ahead of the line that pushed through the area that caused some damage, maybe into the Prairie Grove area and maybe even into the Fayetteville area. Those were kind of our two places of concern when it came to that cell. But when it comes to where we're at currently, we're still starting to see maybe some of that rotation into northern Madison County, into southern Carroll County, but not as strong as it was, by far less than what we had earlier. Here's a look at what we got. Still seeing some of those strong winds moving through, but I think as it comes to the rotation, definitely not as strong as it was earlier. That's why we haven't had that warning and not seeing any signs, at least from the National Weather Service. Want to check out maybe seeing it's becoming less organized right now when it comes to that tight rotation. Other than that, we're really just watching some of that rainfall coming through right now into Benton County. Eventually, down the line, we're going to see some of that much needed rainfall into parts of the river valley as well. Just have to wait a little bit longer until we get there. Still looking through some of that damage right now. Again, We appreciate all the photos and the videos that we're getting sent in right now. A lot of it, unfortunately, coming out of the Prairie Grove area where we may have had some of those really strong winds come through. We're watching some of that tight rotation as well that moved through there. Never had anything confirmed from the National Weather Service other than just seeing that there was some really tight rotation. It was radar indicated rotation when it comes to what comes next for that area. If there is any damage, of course, we got that cleanup process, but then also maybe a crew out of Tulsa from the National Weather Service would come to the Prairie Grove area and see if there was enough damage, whether it was based off of radar and comparing it to what the damage was like. That's when we maybe could talking about a potential tornado that moved through the area. We're still far from that process, especially since we never had anything confirmed in that area other than what we're seeing right now when it comes to the damage and the potential videos coming out as well. What's down the line for us? Well, again, going into this event, the main concern was going to be the potential for strong straight line winds. That still is a potential. I think right now we could see maybe wind gusts around 30 to 40 miles per hour moving through northwest Arkansas, parts of Benton County. So it's windy, it may be loud out there, some thunder out there. But when it comes to climbing above the severe level, not there right now. What we're going to be working on and what we're working on right now is, hey, is there still enough energy out there this late at night? We're at 1:15 right now, to where we could see an environment that will support the chances of seeing those storms redevelop. I think there's a chance. That's why we're going to be sticking here for a while. All right, let's take another tour. I want to go ahead and show you the watch that we have right now. This tornado watch was issued earlier this evening and even extended into parts of Madison and Carroll counties. This is going out until 3 a.m. So we still have that tornado watch active for at least another about 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours across portions of eastern Oklahoma into northwest Arkansas and parts of the River Valley as well. When it comes to more counties being alerted for that tornado watch, I don't necessarily see that as a potential right now. Maybe we could see that down the line, but as it stands, I think we hang on to these counties until around 3 a.m. The best case scenario is that we see continuing of this weakness of these storms over the next couple of hours, and maybe we get lucky and the National Weather Service out of Tulsa drops these counties early from the watch. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves just yet. Still underneath that watch until 3 a.m. for across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So again, we're working with our crews right now, sending them out to the affected areas, but we've still got a lot of work here to do when it comes to tracking what's still to come, and that's what Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert's going to be working on.
Yeah, let's give you one more statewide or area-wide radar picture, and I think we're going to go ahead and end the stream for this evening. Our severe weather threat right now is pretty much non-existent. That's not to say something might not change, and if it does, we're going to be here for you. But right now, we've got no active warnings. Do have a strong thunderstorm moving into parts of Carroll County. Not severe, but look at all that lightning. You're probably hearing it out there. It's certainly waking a lot of folks up in the middle of the night. Probably got some gusty winds coming out of the storm, moving into parts of western Benton County. Stephen, I'm going to take that mouse from you. I'm sorry about that. We'll take a closer look into Benton County, where the winds, the rain, and the lightning and thunder are picking up here in Bentonville, Rogers. Here's Bella Vista. You got a good soaker coming down Decatur, spanning back towards Siloam Springs. Good soaking rain, but that's it. There's probably some gusty winds out there, but it's below severe weather thresholds, and that's the good news. We'll work our way to the south. You'll notice that there are some scattered showers and even some thunderstorms here to the south of Prairie Grove, where there have been some apparent reports of damage coming in. I was looking at some photos that you folks at home were sending in, especially some near the harps. Dustin, if you're still watching, thank you for sending those photos in. We really appreciate it. Looks like there is some minor damage. The question is going to become, was it tornado damage or was it straight line wind damage? At the end of the day, damage is damage. Whether the winds were spinning in a circle or they're blowing in a straight line, it really doesn't make a difference at the end of the day. Winds, though, you got some good soaking rain, some lightning, some thunder moving into parts of eastern Washington County. Starting to see some of those showers and thunderstorms in parts of Crawford County as well. Here's Cedarville. Got a question there that was sent in via text message asking about Cedarville. You're kind of in between a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms, more towards Mountainburg. Certainly more along the river there in Fort Smith and Van Buren, coming in out of Oklahoma as well. You're going to get the main line though. Whether or not you get one of these scattered showers out ahead of it's one thing, but it's that main line that's really going to be the one that we're all going to get in on. It's going to have some winds with it. It's going to have some lightning and some thunder and some good beneficial rain. That pushes up towards the east, likely weakening a little bit as it does, but even then our potential for severe storms continues at least until 3 o'clock in the morning. We're not going nowhere. Myself, Steven, Zach's going to be in here real soon. We're going to be tracking these storms, every single one of them, very closely, whether it's anywhere in the area. We'll be here on top of it. We'll break back in on television, and we'll break back in here on Facebook Live, on 5+ and YouTube if the threat rematerializes. For right now, though, it's some good old sleeping weather. I hope you can get some sleep. I hope Mother Nature will allow it. For Stephen Elmore, the team